My father and sister turned me away from my own mother's birthday party. With a straight face he said, "You're not on the list." And she just stood there, silent, almost proud. Later, I found out, it wasn't a mistake. It was planned. All of it. While I stayed up late working, buying gifts, holding on to hope, I was being quietly erased. Treated like I didn't belong. But what they didn't realize was that consequences were coming, and they'd soon regret every word and every look they threw my way. My name's Avery Monroe, and if you had told me I'd be standing outside my mother's 65th birthday party, completely uninvited, I wouldn't have believed you. Growing up, I always thought Mom and I had a special bond. At least I believed we did, until my own father blocked the doorway with a cold look and said, "You're not on the list," like I was some random person trying to crash a red carpet event. Behind him, my sister Jenna stood there smirking while I clutched a gift in one hand and tried to ignore the sting in my chest. Before I get into what happened next, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and hit that like button if you've ever felt left out by the people who were supposed to love you the most. Being the middle child in a suburban Seattle home came with its own kind of invisibility. I lived somewhere between Jenna, the golden girl with a wall full of awards, and Tyler, the youngest who could do no wrong. One look at our family album says it all: Jenna front and center, Tyler wrapped in hugs, and me? Usually off to the side, sometimes not even fully in the picture. But Mom was different. Or, she used to be. I still remember coming home devastated at age 7 because I wasn't invited to Olivia Warren's birthday. While Dad brushed it off with, "Not everyone gets invited to everything," Mom sat beside me and we made our own paper hats. Just the two of us, celebrating our way. "You're special in your own way, Avery," she whispered. "Don't ever forget that." When I was 12, I placed third in the science fair with the solar system project. It wasn't first place like Jenna always got, but Mom still framed my certificate. "It's not about being the best," she told me. "It's about doing your best." She even hung it right next to Jenna's award collection. 3 days later, Dad took it down, calling it clutter, but Mom quietly tucked it into her nightstand drawer. On my 17th birthday, when my friends bailed last minute to attend a more popular girls' party, Mom didn't let the day go to waste. She drove us 3 hours into the city to see a musical I had been dying to watch. We got dressed up, ate dinner at a nice restaurant, and for that night, she made me feel like the most important person in the world. "Sometimes it's about quality, not quantity," she told me. Those were the moments that grounded me, proof that someone in my family truly saw me. But everything shifted once I left for college. Unlike Jenna, who stayed nearby and went to Northwestern, I chose Philadelphia University, further from home, but right for me. "Why so far?" Dad asked. "Are we not good enough for you?" At first, the distance was just physical. But slowly it became emotional too. After graduation, I surprised even myself by doing well in the tech world. Jenna followed Dad into the family insurance business, and Tyler bounced around between bar jobs, but I pushed hard and climbed the ladder. By 37, I was director of operations at Orvian Dynamics, overseeing more than 180 people and managing a budget that made my dad's firm look like a weekend lemonade stand. But my career success didn't bring closeness, it created distance. Holiday conversations turned into minefields. "So you're still with that computer place?" Dad would ask, even though I'd been sending them Orvian-branded gift baskets every year for 5 years. "And without fail, when are you going to settle down and give your mother some grandkids?" Funny how Jenna and her boyfriend Caleb didn't get that question. The real strain, though, came from Jenna. For Thanksgivings ago, after too many glasses of wine, she pulled me aside in the kitchen. "So you think you're special with your fancy Philadelphia life?" she muttered, cutting the pumpkin pie with a little extra intensity. "You don't get it. You're not here, dealing with Mom and Dad every day. You send gifts and think that counts." "I call every week," I said, trying to stay calm. "I've invited you all to visit." "Just another way to show off," she snapped. "It often feels like we're being compared, Avery." Always. The irony of hearing that from Jenna of all people was unbelievable. I'd spent my childhood clapping for her from the sidelines while she collected trophies. "That's not fair," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I've worked for what I have and we both know that." Her expression hardened. "You seem distant, as if life in Philadelphia changed you." "Well, newsflash, Mom doesn't even talk about your job. She doesn't get it. At least I'm here, actually being a daughter." Those words hit harder than she realized. After that night, Mom's weekly calls slowed to monthly, then became few and far between. When we did talk, she seemed distracted, not really present. This was the same woman who had once kept my science fair certificate hidden from Dad. Now she couldn't remember basic details about my life. Tyler followed Jenna's lead, as always. My fun, goofy messages to him turned into dry one-word replies. When I visited last, he barely looked up from his phone all weekend. Dad had never been especially supportive, but over time, his disapproval hardened into something more rigid. "Your mother's worried about you," he'd say in our rare chats. "Living alone in that city, working too much. It's just not natural for a woman your age." I tried to explain that I wasn't alone. I had a full life with friends, a great job, and good people around me. But to them, success without the traditional family picture didn't count. To them, it looked like I had traded real happiness for a corner office and a wardrobe. What stung most was Mom pulling away. The same woman who once drove hours to see a show with me now couldn't spare a 5-minute phone call without Jenna chiming in the background. "Jenna says you're too busy for us now," she said one time, her voice uncertain. "Is that true, Avery?" No matter what I said, it didn't change anything. The story had already been written in their minds. I was the daughter who left. The one who picked career over connection. The outsider in a narrative I never even got to write. Last Thanksgiving pushed me over the edge. After another one of Jenna's jabs about my empty life, I finally spoke up. "At least I built my life on my own," I said, calmly putting my fork down. I didn't just step into Dad's business and pretend that made me impressive. The table went silent. Mom looked stunned. Dad's expression hardened. "I think you should go," Jenna said softly, but with satisfaction in her eyes. So I did. I packed my bag, ordered a ride, and flew back to Philadelphia that very night. No one called to say sorry. No one called at all until 3 months later, when I saw a post on Facebook about Mom's big 65th birthday bash. It didn't come from her profile. She rarely posted online. Instead, I found out through Jenna's page. She had organized this big celebration, inviting the entire extended family, everyone it seemed, except for me. I stumbled upon the event while absent-mindedly scrolling through Facebook during a late night at the office. Jenna had created a polished event banner titled, "Eleanor Monroe, 65. Years of Love." The guest list included relatives I hadn't seen in forever, childhood neighbors, even Mom's college roommate who now lived in Florida. My name, however, was clearly missing from the RSVP list. I just stared at my screen, its blue glow lighting up my face in the otherwise dark office. It was close to midnight in Philadelphia, and I was still buried in quarterly reports while the janitor vacuumed nearby. This kind of commitment was exactly what my family often criticized me for, yet it was also what earned me credibility in a field that wasn't always easy for women. "Avery?" Lena, my assistant, stood in the doorway. "You're still here?" Security called to check if something was wrong. I quickly minimized the Facebook tab. "Just wrapping up a few things." She nodded slowly, clearly skeptical. "You know most people don't work until midnight on a Friday." "I've never exactly been most people," I said with a tired smile that didn't quite feel real. Once she left, I brought Facebook back up and let myself do something I usually avoided. I started scrolling through family photos. There was Mom's 64th birthday, which I missed last year because of an urgent Paris client meeting. Tyler's promotion to head bartender, which I congratulated him for through a text. Mom and Dad's anniversary dinner, everyone grinning happily, except for the gap where I should've. Then I picked up my phone and called Mom directly. It was late, but she'd always been a night owl. "Avery?" she answered, sounding a little surprised. "Is everything okay?" That was where things stood between us now. Calls meant something had gone wrong, not just catching up. "Everything's fine, Mom. I hesitated, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I saw something about your birthday on Facebook." There was a pause. "Oh, that. I didn't get an invite," I said, my voice sounding smaller than I wanted it to. Another pause. "Well, Jenna said you'd be too busy. That big project you told us about, the Singapore expansion." I pressed my fingers to the bridge of my nose. "That's next month, Mom. This is your 65th. I would have made time." Her voice softened a little. "Of course you should come. It'd be wonderful to see you." We kept chatting, though the conversation felt awkward. She gave me a few details, but something in her tone seemed unsure. As soon as we hung up, I booked a first-class ticket to Seattle for the weekend. It cost $2,400, a stretch for my budget. But it felt like something I had to do. The next morning, I called Lena from my apartment. "I'll need to take next Friday off. It's a family matter." "Wait, you're taking a day off for family?" she asked, genuinely surprised. "Are you feeling okay?" "Very funny," I said dryly. "Just please move the vendor meetings." Getting ready for the trip turned into a full-on operation. I spent hours tracking down the right gift. I finally chose a vintage emerald brooch from an antique shop. One that reminded me of a piece Mom used to admire in her grandmother's collection. I paired it with a luxury spa package at a resort she'd once mentioned wanting to try. Altogether, it came to just under $200. It was definitely a splurge, but I wanted to prove that even from a distance, I still understood what made her smile. Picking an outfit felt just as deliberate. I landed on a sapphire blue dress, elegant enough for Dad's standards, but stylish enough to show I was doing well. Not that I needed their approval, I reminded myself, though not very convincingly. As I swiped my credit card, the night before the flight, I practiced conversations in my bathroom mirror. So good to see you. Smile friendly, not overeager. The company's doing well, but let's talk about something else. Deflect. Don't overshare. Jenna, I'm sorry about what I said last Thanksgiving. Even though she was the one who stirred the pot. I rehearsed every line like I was prepping for the biggest pitch of my career. In some ways, maybe I was. The morning of my flight, a text popped up from Jenna. Heard you're coming. Just don't make this weekend about you. I stared at that message all the way to Logan Airport. I didn't know how to respond, so I finally just typed, looking forward to celebrating Mom, and left it there. The flight gave me 3 hours of switching between hope and doubt. I skimmed through work files without absorbing a word. Eventually, I resorted to some breathing exercises my therapist taught me. Family can pull you into old habits. Dr. Miles Carter once told me, just remember you're showing up as who you are now, not who you were back then. Easier said than felt, especially when heading straight into the orbit of childhood memories. I checked into a downtown hotel instead of staying at my parents' house in the suburbs. I already knew that choice would be seen as me acting too good for the family. But sleeping in my old room, still plastered with debate team banners, just wasn't an option. I needed a place of my own, somewhere to retreat if things got uncomfortable. That evening, I ordered room service and laid out my clothes for the next day. The blue dress. Silver heels, not too tall. Simple pearl earrings, a graduation gift from Mom years ago. Every detail carefully chosen to send a message. I'm successful, but not showy. Professional, yet approachable. Independent. But still your daughter. I barely slept that night. By morning, I had convinced myself that this trip would either mend everything, or mark the end of whatever was left. There was no in-between. With shaky hands I applied my makeup, curled my hair, and practiced one last smile in the mirror. Happy birthday, Mom, I whispered to my reflection. I hope you're glad I came. The party was at a renovated boathouse overlooking Lake Washington, exactly Mom's kind of place. Tasteful but not flashy, with wood beams and floor-to-ceiling windows that let the April sunlight pour in over the water. I recognized the cars in the lot instantly, Uncle Franklin's vintage Camaro, Aunt Monica's reliable Honda, even my cousin Ryan's motorcycle. Each one like a memory pulled straight from childhood. As I walked toward the entrance, holding my carefully wrapped gift, I spotted someone. Outside. It was Thomas, Dad's old college buddy, smoking by the door. Avery? He said, eyebrows raised. Wow, is that really you? Hi, Mr. Kendall. I smiled automatically, slipping back into the politeness I grew up with. Good to see you. You look so much like your mom did at your age, he said, offering a slightly awkward side hug. She'll be thrilled you made it. She was just saying how nice it would be if all her kids could be here today. That comment hit me in a way I didn't expect. If Mom already knew I was coming, why would she say something like that? Before I could ask any questions, my cousin Nora stepped out of the building. Avery, she said, genuinely surprised as she pulled me into a hug. I had no idea you were coming. Jenna said work stuff had you tied up. I moved some things around, I said cautiously, already feeling a knot in my stomach. It's Mom's 65th, I wouldn't miss it. Her expression shifted, just slightly. Right, well, everyone's inside. Your mom looks beautiful. I followed Nora toward the entrance where Dad was greeting guests. His salt-and-pepper hair looked freshly trimmed, his stance still perfectly upright, years of military habits showing. When he spotted me, there was no warm smile. Instead, his face settled into that stern expression I remembered all too well from childhood. Avery, he said, his voice flat. What are you doing here? That question instantly knocked the lines I'd rehearsed right out of my head. I came to celebrate Mom, I answered, trying to keep my tone casual. Is that really such a shock? He looked down at the clipboard in his hands, scanning what seemed to be the guest list. You're not on the list, he said. Those 4 words just sat there in the air, heavy and unmistakable. I could feel the blood rising to my cheeks, suddenly aware that people were quietly watching us. There has to be a mistake, I murmured. I spoke to Mom last week. She told me I should definitely come. Dad didn't even blink. No mistake. This party was planned by people who actually make time for your mother. His words hit hard, sharp, and deliberate. Behind him, guests were doing their best to pretend they weren't eavesdropping, but they absolutely were. The whole thing felt intentional, like this was meant to be a performance. Dad, I said quietly, lowering my voice, please don't do this. I came all this way just to celebrate her. You should have called ahead, he said stiffly. This is for family who shows up, not just physically, but consistently. Before I could reply, Jenna walked up beside him, her boyfriend Caleb following close behind. She was wearing a soft pink dress that looked almost exactly like one of Mom's, her hair done in Mom's signature waves. It wasn't subtle, she was sending a message. The favorite daughter. The one who truly belonged. Is something wrong? She asked sweetly, though the gleam in her eyes told a different story. Avery's not on the guest list, Dad repeated. Jenna's concern was fake but polished. Oh no, that's awkward. I thought we'd agreed on this, Avery. After how Thanksgiving went. We didn't agree on anything, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I spoke to Mom directly. Jenna just shrugged. She probably didn't want to say no outright. You know how much she avoids difficult conversations. I looked past them, scanning the crowd. Where's she? I'd like to talk to her myself. She's busy, Dad said firmly. And I'm not letting you spoil her birthday. I caught Caleb shifting behind Jenna, clearly uncomfortable. He was tall, nice-looking, with dark hair and glasses, dressed in a sleek but slightly oversized suit. I hadn't met him before, just seen him pop up in Jenna's photos online. And now in person, he looked genuinely uneasy about what he was witnessing. While I stood there holding the carefully wrapped gift, I heard a voice whisper nearby. Is that Avery? I thought she wasn't talking to the family anymore. Another voice chimed in, maybe Ryan's wife? Then one more. Jenna said she called Eleanor unsupportive at Thanksgiving. Can you imagine? And finally, Jenna, no longer bothering to lower her voice, said, did she really think she'd be welcome after all that? In that moment, it all clicked. This wasn't spontaneous. It had been orchestrated, probably discussed in advance, maybe even looked forward to. I wasn't just being left out, I was being taught a lesson. I took a long breath and steadied myself. I wouldn't give them the reaction they wanted. I understand, I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. Please give this to Mom, it's her birthday gift. I held the beautifully wrapped box out toward Dad, who took it without saying a word. Tell her I love her and I hope she has a wonderful day, I added, looking him right in the eye. That's all I came to say. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked away, back straight, steps measured. I didn't rush, even though every part of me wanted to run. Behind me, I heard Jenna's laugh and my father saying something I couldn't quite make out. By the time I reached my rental car, my hands were shaking so much I struggled to get the key in the ignition. The mascara I'd applied so carefully was on the verge of turning into streaks. I gripped the steering wheel and focused on my breathing. In for 4, out for 4. I wouldn't let myself fall apart here. I'd head back to the hotel, pack up, reschedule my flight, and be back in Philadelphia by tomorrow. This chapter? It was done. No more trying to repair what couldn't be fixed. No more holiday calls or pretending we were close. We weren't a family anymore, we were just people who used to share an address. I was just about to start the engine when a knock on the window startled me. I jumped, heart racing. Standing outside was Caleb, Jenna's boyfriend, gesturing for me to roll the window down. His expression was uneasy, almost apologetic. Part of me wanted to ignore him and just drive off. But curiosity got the better of me. I lowered the window a few inches. Avery, he said, then paused. Ms. Monroe, I mean. Just Avery is fine, I replied automatically, then squinted at him. Wait, how do you know to call me that? Caleb glanced toward the building, then back at me. Because I work at Orvian Dynamics. In Philadelphia. Software engineering, 3rd floor. My mind scrambled to place him. He added, Caleb Bennett. I joined about 8 months ago. Transferred from the Seattle office so I could be closer to Jenna on weekends. Then he gave a small, sheepish smile. I recognized you the moment I saw you walk up today. Life really does have a strange sense of humor sometimes. Out of all the tech companies in Philadelphia, my sister's boyfriend had ended up working at mine. I'd been so focused on the operations side lately that I hadn't even made the connection about the new guy on the engineering team. Does Jenna know you work for me? I asked him. Not exactly, he replied, shifting in his seat, clearly uneasy. She knows I work at Orvian, but I never mentioned that. You're technically my boss. Because I am, I finished for him, trying not to sound too amused. Even though he didn't report to me directly, our org chart definitely put him within my chain of leadership. Mind if I sit? He asked, gesturing to the passenger seat. I feel like I owe you some kind of explanation. Despite my better judgment, I unlocked the door. Caleb slid in, his tall frame making the rental car feel noticeably smaller. I should have said something back there, he began. What happened wasn't okay. Then why didn't you? I asked, the words coming out sharper than I meant them to. It's complicated, he sighed. I've only been seeing Jenna for about a year. Still trying to find my footing with all of this. Well, I said with a bitter edge, you just got a front row seat to how the Monroe family handles things. That's actually why I came out here, Caleb said, turning toward me. What you saw in there. That wasn't spontaneous. My stomach dropped. What are you saying? At the rehearsal dinner last night, he explained, Jenna and your dad were talking about what to do if you showed up. Your dad said he'd take care of it. I leaned back, stunned. Was my mom even part of that conversation? She wasn't, he said gently. That somehow made it worse. The idea that they had planned it without telling her, that this was planned embarrassment, hit even harder. Does she even know I tried to come? I asked. Caleb paused. She asked about you earlier. Thought you might surprise her. And Jenna told her I sent my regrets? He nodded. That's what she said. But I knew that wasn't true. My voice lowered. I never sent anything like that. I believe you, Caleb said quietly. Jenna talks about you a lot. I bet it's all glowing praise, I muttered. It's complicated, he said again, choosing his words. There's a lot of comparison going on. She measures herself against you, even if she doesn't admit it. Comparison? I blinked. She's always been the favorite. Why would she compare herself to me? She may be the golden child, he said, but you're the one who left. You built your own life. On your own terms. And at Orvian. He trailed off. At Orvian, what? I pressed. You're respected, Avery. Like, really respected. People admire the way you lead. The way you think. My mind raced to catch up. When I found out Jenna's sister Avery was the same Avery Monroe people here talk about with such admiration, it honestly threw me off. I sat there in stunned silence, letting his words sink in. All this time, I'd been walking around feeling like I'd failed my family. When professionally, I had become someone others looked up to. Jenna's been slowly reshaping how your parents see you, Caleb continued. She'd frame your being away as you not caring. Twist things just enough. Exaggerate small issues. And my mom just believed it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She's been dealing with some health stuff, Caleb said gently. Nothing major, but enough to make her more sensitive to pressure. She's been a bit more tired than usual lately. And Jenna manages her calendar and meds now, right? He nodded. It hit me like a weight to the chest. While I'd been chasing deadlines and climbing the ladder in Philadelphia, Jenna had been shaping how others see things here in Seattle. One where I was selfish. One where I'd chosen career over connection. And why are you telling me all this? I finally asked. You're dating my sister. Aren't you supposed to be loyal to her? Caleb looked down at his hands. Because what they did today was wrong, he said. And because I've worked under you at Orvian. I've seen how you treat people with respect, even when they mess up. The way they talk about you? It just doesn't match the story Jenna's been telling. Then he added, almost sheepishly, also, it's really awkward when your girlfriend's family drama includes your direct boss. Despite everything, that made me chuckle. I can imagine. So, he asked, what are you going to do? I looked out at the lake, sunlight dancing on the water. The easiest thing would be to leave, go home, and never look back. Honestly, the professional in me understood when to cut ties. But another part of me, the part that remembered Mom making paper hats for my 7th birthday, that part wasn't ready to just walk away. I think, I said slowly, that it's time they heard the truth. Especially my mom. Caleb exhaled, looking both relieved and nervous. I'll support whatever you choose. Just maybe go easy on me. I still have to show up for Thanksgiving. Don't worry, I told him, reaching for the door. Navigating tough personalities? That's half my job. As we walked back toward the venue, I felt a surprising wave of calm wash over me. This wasn't the moment I'd planned for. But maybe it was the one that had been overdue for a long time. Re-entering that building was no small task. It was harder than my first big boardroom presentation. Harder than letting go of someone I once hired. This required a different kind of strength, the kind you need to stand in front of people who think they know you and show them who you really are. We entered through a side door, bypassing my dad's gatekeeping at the front. Inside, the party was buzzing. Roughly 70 guests gathered around round tables, chatting and laughing. A slideshow of family photos played on a projector screen. I noticed how rarely I appeared in the images. At the center of it all, Mom sat at a table in a beautiful lavender dress, her silver hair gently curled. She was laughing at something Uncle Franklin had said, unaware of what had happened outside. Jenna spotted us first. Her eyes darted between Caleb and me, realization slowly dawning on her face. She immediately started moving across the room, but it was too late. Caleb stepped forward, his voice carrying just as the room quieted naturally. "Everyone," he said, "I'd like to introduce Avery Monroe, Eleanor's daughter." Then he added, perfectly timed, "and my boss at Orvian Dynamics." The room went silent. The moment my mom's eyes met mine, she froze, confused at first, then visibly lit up with what looked like genuine happiness. "Avery," she said, standing so quickly her napkin fluttered to the floor. "You came." Before I could say anything, Jenna reached us, her face flushed with frustration. "Caleb, what are you doing?" she whispered harshly. "I'm doing the right thing," he replied calmly. That's when my father appeared, and his expression was thunderclouds. "I thought I made myself clear at the door," he said coldly. "You did," I answered, keeping my tone steady. "But it seems there's been a misunderstanding about where I stand in this family, and I think it's time to clear it up." My mom stepped closer, her eyes scanning all our faces. "What's going on, Franklin? Why do you look so upset?" Then turning to me, "Avery, sweetheart, I'm so glad you're here." Her reaction confirmed what Caleb had told me earlier. She hadn't known about what happened at the door, and that realization made me feel both relieved and angry. Taking her hands gently, I said, "Mom, can I ask you something important?" "Of course. Did you believe I didn't want to be here for your birthday?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Well, Jenna said you were swamped at work. That big project, right?" "I never said that," I told her, firm but calm. "When we talked, I told you I would be here. I took time off. I flew in yesterday." Her eyes flicked toward Jenna, then to Dad. "Then why?" "I was at the door earlier," I continued, aware that every conversation around us had gone quiet. "Dad told me I wasn't on the list, that this was a party for people who actually make time for family." My mom's face shifted from confusion to stunned disbelief. "Franklin, is that true?" she asked. He looked tense, his voice defensive. "Eleanor, we agreed after what she said at Thanksgiving." "We agreed on no such thing," Mom cut in, her tone sharper than I'd heard in years. "Avery is our daughter. Of course she's welcome at my birthday." You could hear the clinking of ice and drinks. That's how quiet the room had become. This wasn't how I imagined having this conversation, but maybe it needed to happen exactly this way. "There's been a pattern," I said, still speaking to my mom but conscious of every eye in the room. "For years now, things I've said have been twisted. When I miss events because of work, it's portrayed as me not caring. When I achieve something, it's spun as me rejecting my family." Jenna stepped forward, a tight smile on her face. "This really isn't the time or place, Avery," she said coolly. "Why do you always make everything about you? Even today." "That's exactly what I mean," I said, motioning toward her. "This version of me, that I'm distant, focus more on work, it's not true. But it's become the story that's been told." I turned to the room. "Many of you have known me my whole life. I've never claimed to be perfect, but I've always loved this family. My job took me to Philadelphia, not to the moon. Phones work both ways. So do visits." I saw my cousin Ryan give a small nod. Aunt Monica leaned in and whispered something to Uncle Franklin. Turning back to Jenna, I steadied my tone, switching into the same voice I used during tough meetings at work. "You've been slowly breaking down my relationship with Mom and Dad. You've made little comments, magnified arguments, spun my choices to look like rejections." "That's not true," Jenna scoffed, though her eyes shifted nervously. "Isn't it?" I asked, then turned to Caleb. "What did Jenna say about me before today?" Caleb hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, but answered truthfully. "She said you were cold. That you were obsessed with work. That you said it felt like your mom didn't fully understand you and said your family was holding you back. I never said that, I stated, my voice firm. Jenna jumped in. It was implied. No, it wasn't, I said, shaking my head. At Thanksgiving, when you accused me of acting superior, I said I built my career myself. That's not an insult. That's a fact. Mom's face fell. Is that true, Jenna? She asked quietly. Have you been turning us against Avery? Jenna's composure finally cracked. You don't get it, she said, voice trembling. She left. She got to build this big career and live in a city. And I stayed here. I helped with everything. I tried to be the good daughter. But when she calls, your face still lights up more than it ever does for me. Her pain filled the silence that followed. And even after everything, I felt a twinge of empathy. We had both been placed in these roles when we were young, me as the one who left, her as the one who stayed behind. Jenna, Mom said gently, I've never compared the two of you. I love you both. In your own ways. Because you're not the same person. Then why, Jenna said, her voice cracking, do you still keep that science fair certificate in your drawer? 3rd place. She got 3rd place. 18 years ago. I stared at her, speechless. That certificate, something I hadn't thought about in years, had clearly become symbolic to her. Dad, who had stayed quiet most of the time, finally spoke. I think maybe we should talk about this somewhere more private. No, Mom said, standing firm. I'm tired of confusion and assumptions in this family. Then she turned to the crowd. Everyone, I'm so sorry for the interruption. Please enjoy the food and music. We just need a quick family chat. She motioned to a nearby room, and the 4 of us, Dad, Jenna, Caleb, and I, followed her inside. As the door closed, I could feel the stares and hear the murmurs ripple through the room behind us. Inside, Mom took control in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Sit, she said, and we did. She looked straight at my dad. Franklin, she asked, did you actually turn our daughter away at the door of my birthday party? Dad shifted in his seat. I was trying to protect you, after what she said about us. What exactly did she say? Mom pressed. And I want her actual words. Not Jenna's version. Dad looked genuinely unsure. She said we were holding her back. That she had to build her life on her own because we didn't support her. That's not what I said, I cut in. I said I built my career myself. And I did. That doesn't mean I was blaming anyone. Mom turned to Jenna. Have you been keeping Avery and me apart on purpose? Jenna's posture wilted under the direct question. I got tired, she admitted. She gets all this attention when she swoops in. Everyone makes a big deal. And then she's gone again. Meanwhile, I'm here, taking you to appointments, helping around the house. I blinked. Appointments? I asked Mom, confused. What appointments? Mom exhaled. I've had some minor health things. Nothing serious, just some memory trouble and a seam down. It's been difficult. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice breaking slightly. Jenna thought it would only add stress with your work schedule, Mom said quietly, then added with a frown. Looking at my mom, I finally understood. This wasn't Jenna's choice to make what I should or shouldn't know. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The growing distance in our calls, the moments of confusion, the way Jenna had slowly become the gatekeeper of all family updates. I'm sorry, Caleb said, his voice breaking through the silence. I should have spoken up earlier. I've overheard a few conversations where things Avery supposedly said were stretched. Jenna turned to him, eyes wide with disbelief. You're taking her side? She asked, hurt flashing across her face. Your boss over your girlfriend? It's not about sides, Caleb said gently. It's about being honest. The word seemed to linger in the air, honesty. Something our family hadn't practiced in a long time. We'd always favored comfortable stories over uncomfortable truths. I want to try again, I said quietly. All of us. But only if we're being real with each other. No more games. No more gatekeeping. No more rewriting conversations to fit a version of the story that feels easier. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. I want that too, she said softly. I've missed you more than you realize. Dad cleared his throat. I may have misread a few things if what you're saying is accurate. It wasn't exactly an apology, but from my father it meant something. Jenna didn't say anything. Tears streamed down her face now, her carefully built image of the perfect, selfless daughter starting to fall apart. I couldn't tell if she was grieving the role she played for so long or relieved to finally stop performing it. This won't get fixed with one conversation, I admitted. But maybe it's a beginning. As we started to head back toward the party, Mom paused beside me. Your gift, she said softly. The emerald brooch. How did you know? You showed me Grandma's jewelry box when I was 10, I reminded her. There was a brooch just like it, but you said it was lost when you moved. You told me it was your favorite. Her eyes filled with tears. You remembered that? I remember what matters, I said, giving her hand a squeeze. Just because I'm not physically here doesn't mean I'm not present. When we rejoined the celebration, the tension hadn't fully disappeared, but it had shifted. There was weight in the air, yes, but it wasn't heavy with silence anymore. Sometimes even painful truths are lighter than comforting lies. Guests slowly resumed their conversations, though now people were approaching me one by one, making meaningful conversation, not just polite chit-chat. Even Dad made an effort, asking about my job in a way that felt genuine. Maybe for the first time. Jenna stayed distant, still processing what had happened. What we'd confronted wasn't just her actions, it was the fear behind them. That healing would take the longest. Maybe it would happen, maybe it wouldn't. But as Mom stood between us to cut her cake, smiling with both of her daughters at her side, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. The Monday after the party, I returned to my Philadelphia office with what felt like an emotional hangover. The conversation had been necessary, important, even, but emotionally exhausting. I ended up staying an extra day, spending quiet time with Mom, keeping conversations with Dad cordial, and giving Jenna plenty of space. When I walked in that morning, Lena looked up from her desk, coffee in hand. So, how was the family reunion? Eventful, I said, managing a tired smile. Very eventful. And she teased. Did they finally recognize the amazing, accomplished woman you've become? I thought for a second. Actually, I think they're starting to. Around 11 that morning, the professional consequences of the weekend hit me. I got an email from HR confirming a departmental transfer request for Caleb Bennett, my sister's boyfriend. He was moving from software engineering to product development. It was a lateral shift, but it removed him from my management chain. It made sense professionally, and it definitely simplified things personally. I called him that afternoon. You didn't have to transfer, I said as soon as he answered. It felt like the right move, he replied. Cleaner boundaries considering everything. How's Jenna handling all of this? I asked, finally voicing the question I'd been avoiding. Caleb paused. She's having a hard time. Your honesty kind of unraveled the version of the story she's been telling herself. My stomach tightened. She gave me an ultimatum Saturday night, he added. What kind? Basically, me or the job. I exhaled. She said if I cared about her, I'd quit Orvian. That sounded so familiar it almost made me laugh. What did you tell her? I told her I care about myself enough not to let anyone control my career, he said simply. We're taking a break while she figures things out. I felt a pang of guilt. I never wanted to cause problems between you two. You didn't, Caleb said. This was going to happen anyway. Your honesty just sped things up. I've seen patterns in how she deals with pressure. This was overdue. After we hung up, I sat at my desk staring out at the skyline. Everything, the personal, the professional, it had all collided in ways no business class could prepare you for. Later that day, I scheduled a meeting with our chief ethics officer. I laid everything out, calmly, clearly, and without emotion. I just want to make sure there's no confusion about my role in any of this, I explained. Diane listened thoughtfully, then gave her advice. Document everything. Step back from any decision-making that involves Caleb directly. And you might consider bringing in an executive coach to help you draw clear personal and professional boundaries. I followed Diane's advice carefully, putting protocols in place to protect Caleb's career and my own professional integrity. It felt strange, using corporate procedures to navigate a family situation. But maybe structure was exactly what this situation had always lacked. At the same time, I was still working through everything that had come to light. I scheduled a last-minute session with Dr. Miles Carter, my therapist. You stood up for yourself, she said after I recounted the entire experience. How did that feel? Terrifying, I admitted. And then, honestly, kind of freeing. The dynamic you've described isn't uncommon, she said. There's often a contrast. One child becomes the one who stays, the other becomes the one who leaves. And labels form, the loyal one, the independent one. The good one, the selfish one. She paused. But the truth is, neither role is entirely accurate or fair. So how do we change that? I asked. She smiled gently. That's the real question. It starts with being honest and adjusting expectations. Families don't change overnight. Some never fully do. But you've started something important. 2 weeks after the party, Mom called with news that stopped me in my tracks. Her doctor had confirmed early-stage cognitive issues. There were noticeable memory challenges that would likely increase over time. I should have told you sooner, she said softly. But Jenna thought. Mom, I cut in gently, from now on, I need you to promise me something. If anything's going on with your health or anything else, I want to hear it from you. Not Jenna. Not Dad. Just you. I promise, she said. And this time I heard something different in her voice, resolve. In fact, she added, I've been thinking, would it be okay if I visited you in Philadelphia? I'd like to see your life there. I was stunned. In all my years living there, neither of my parents had ever visited. I'd love that, I said, my voice catching a little. When were you thinking? Next month, she said. Your father has a fishing trip planned, and I thought, well, it might be nice to come alone. The idea that she wanted this time, just the two of us, warmed something inside me that had been cold for a long time. I'll send you flight options tonight, I promised. Back at work, I poured myself into the Singapore expansion project. Something about the clarity I'd gained personally helped sharpen me professionally too. I was more decisive. More assertive. I pushed back when needed and stood up stronger for my team. After a major negotiation, my boss Derek looked at me curiously. You're different lately, he said. More grounded. I'm learning how to show up as my whole self, I replied, surprising both of us with how personal it sounded. As for Caleb, we kept things professional in the office. But now and then we'd grab coffee on weekends, still trying to process the ripple effects of everything that had unfolded. One afternoon, he shared something that genuinely gave me hope. She started seeing a therapist, he told me. Your mom suggested it. That bit of news meant more than I could say. Jenna seeking help on her own? That felt like the most promising sign yet. It meant she might finally be ready to reflect on her role in our family's long-standing tension. Then, 3 months after the birthday, I got an email I never saw coming. The CEO wanted to meet with me to discuss a potential promotion, a VP role overseeing global operations. It would be a big step. More responsibility. More travel. And much more visibility. During the interview, Naomi, our CEO, asked something that caught me off guard. This role involves high-stakes conversations and staying grounded under pressure. Can you tell me about a time you've demonstrated that outside of work? I took a breath. Then carefully I told her a distilled version of the birthday incident. I framed it around setting boundaries, telling the truth, and standing firm, even when it's uncomfortable. When I finished, she nodded thoughtfully. That's exactly why we're considering you, Avery. Your technical skills are top tier. But what sets you apart is your integrity and your courage. A week later, I officially accepted the VP position. The first person I called was my mom. I'm so proud of you, she said, her voice steady and full of warmth. I always knew you were meant for big things. Even when I only got third place at the science fair? I teased. Especially then, she laughed. Because you did it your way. When I hung up, I sat for a moment, letting it settle in. For the first time in my adult life, I felt both professionally strong and emotionally grounded with my family. The wall that had always separated those parts of my life was finally coming down. 3 months later, my mother stepped off a plane at Logan Airport for the first time ever. I stood at the gate, oddly nervous, like I was meeting a first date instead of my own mom. Avery, she called, waving excitedly when she saw me. She looked smaller than I remembered, but her eyes were bright. Clear. Present. Welcome to Philadelphia, Mom, I said, wrapping her in a hug. I can't believe you're finally here. That week turned out to be transformative. I took 3 days off work, something so rare that Lena checked to see if I was okay. And I showed Mom everything. My apartment with the river view. The coffee shop where they knew my name. The little garden behind the library where I liked to read during lunch breaks. It's beautiful, she said as we walked along the waterfront. I get it now. I see why you love it here. On her third day, I brought her to Orvian. Watching her interact with my coworkers, seeing the pride in her face when people spoke well of me, it healed something deep. She saw it firsthand, not Avery the outsider, but Avery the respected leader. Caleb greeted her politely, keeping things appropriate, but I noticed the warmth in his tone. Whatever happened between him and Jenna, he had become an unexpected source of support. Someone who, in his own quiet way, helped us start putting the pieces back together. After she returned to Seattle, something had shifted. Our weekly calls resumed, but now they felt different. More open. She started sending little care packages. A book she thought I'd like. A scarf that matched my eyes. Small tokens that said, I see you. Even Dad was making small efforts in his own quiet way. He began emailing articles about tech with short notes. Thought you might find this useful. They were tiny gestures, but they meant the world. Things with Jinnah remained the most complicated. We didn't talk at all for about 2 months after the confrontation, no texts, no calls. Then, out of the blue, one evening while I was prepping for a presentation, my phone rang. It was her. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said without any lead-in. And a lot of therapy. That's good, I said, careful not to sound too guarded or too hopeful. I'm not ready to unpack everything yet, she continued. But I wanted to say I understand now. That I was wrong about some things. The way I described you to Mom and Dad, it wasn't fair. It wasn't a full apology, but coming from Jinnah, it meant more than she probably realized. Thank you for telling me that, I said quietly. Caleb mentioned you've been really professional through everything, she added. He respects you a lot. He's a good guy, I said. Whatever happens between you two, I think he genuinely cares. We're working on it, she said vaguely. Anyway, I should go. But I just wanted you to know I'm trying. After the VP promotion, my role brought new challenges and a lot more travel. Singapore became a regular destination as our expansion took shape. Ironically, that also meant I passed through Seattle more often. And during those stops, I began carving out little pockets of time to see my parents. Sometimes it was just a quick dinner with Mom at the airport. Other times it was an overnight visit where Dad joined too. But those short, steady check-ins created something stronger than our old pattern of high-pressure holiday reunions. With proper treatment, Mom's health began to stabilize. The doctors think lowering stress has made a big difference, she told me one evening over coffee. All that tension, it really was affecting me. 6 months after the birthday party, I hosted Thanksgiving at my apartment in Philadelphia. It was intentional, a quiet reclaiming of the holiday that had once been our breaking point. Mom and Dad said yes immediately. Tyler came too, along with his new girlfriend. Jinnah didn't attend, but she sent a thoughtful gift basket which surprised me. That night, as we all gathered around a makeshift extended table, I had a realization. For the first time, our family dinner felt real, not staged. We weren't stuck in the roles we'd outgrown. We were showing up as who we were now, messy, grown up, and still choosing to connect. Before we ate, Mom raised her glass. I want to thank Avery, she said. Not just for bringing us together here in her beautiful home, but for reminding us how powerful it is to speak the truth. Dad nodded, visibly emotional. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on the kind of father I've been, he said. And the kind I still want to be. I'm proud of you, Avery. For your accomplishments, yes. But more for your strength and character. Hearing that, after so many years of silence, brought tears to my eyes. Later, as everyone pitched in to clean up, another family first, I got a text from Jinnah. Hope dinner went well. Maybe next year. Those 4 words carried more weight than 100 picture-perfect family portraits. Professionally, the personal growth from all this began to show too. My leadership style evolved, more grounded, more human. I started mentoring younger women at Orvian who were struggling with the same work-life pressures I'd battled for years. Your value doesn't come from your job title or your family's approval, I told one especially bright analyst. It comes from knowing who you are and treating others with kindness and honesty. In my next performance review, our CEO Naomi had this to say. You've always excelled at the technical side of leadership, but now you're bringing something more heart. And that combination? That's rare. The confrontation I once feared would break our family had actually been the catalyst for something new. Not a picture-perfect storybook ending. We were still learning, still growing, still slipping into old habits sometimes, but now we had the awareness to catch ourselves and the care to repair. During her visit to Philadelphia, my mom said something that stuck with me. Sometimes being pushed out of places you don't truly belong is what helps you find where you do. She was talking about my career, but it applied just as much to relationships. The pain of that birthday rejection had opened the door to something better, more honest, more sustainable. The emerald brooch I gave Mom? She now wears it to every meaningful family occasion. It's become a small but powerful symbol that even when I wasn't physically present, I was still remembered. This spring, for the first time ever, we're doing something we never would have considered before, family therapy. Not because we're in crisis, but because we're committed to continuing the work. Mom, Dad, Jinnah, Tyler, and me. All of us. It's already on the calendar. Seattle next month. What I've learned is that family isn't a fixed picture. It's a living, changing process. And the work of keeping it healthy never really ends. But boundaries, real boundaries, aren't barriers. They're guideposts. They allow us to meet each other in the middle as our full, honest selves. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a family situation where you were misunderstood or misrepresented? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, please tap the like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about navigating complicated relationships and learning how to speak your truth. Thanks for listening. And remember, sometimes healing starts with finding the courage to speak, even if your voice shakes.